welcome to Frolic. Today we're unraveling the incredible journey of Shrek, the unlikely hero who turned the animation world upside down. From its humble beginnings at a struggling studio to becoming a cultural phenomenon and Oscar winner, Shrek defied all odds with its groundbreaking animation and witty humor. How did a green ogre manage to win the hearts of millions and reshape the landscape of animated films forever? Stick around as we explore the fascinating production of Shrek, uncovering the twists and turns that made it a smashing success. Get ready for a wild ride through the land of far, far away, where fairy tales are not what they seem, and where one ogre's journey changed everything. In the year 2000s, DreamWorks was struggling significantly with animated films. They hadn't achieved the success they were seeking. First with The Prince of Egypt, and before that with Ants, a film praised for its animation but somewhat criticized for having a story too similar to Disney's A Bug's Life. That's why Spielberg suggested Shrek, a book by William Steig published in the 90s, for which he had already acquired the rights to bring to the big screen. This book told the story of an ogre who finds his true self when he leaves home to explore the world. Katzenberg began working on this project with the aim of creating something visually striking. The challenge of this film was how it would look. That's why the first option was to make it a stop-motion film, but this required a budget that was too high. They decided to mix CGI with scenes created using models, but this was also eventually discarded, and they chose to use 100% CGI to start designing the characters. The first step was to assemble a cast of actors who would bring the characters to life with their voices. At that time, Chris Farley was the comedian of the moment. He was making waves on Saturday Night Live and had hit the big screen with Tommy Boy in 1995. That's why he was offered the role of Shrek, and he accepted immediately. He would be joined by Eddie Murphy as Donkey, Janeane Garofalo as Fiona, and Alan Rickman was approached to play Lord Farquaad. However, Rickman did not accept because of his commitment to Harry Potter, so the role eventually went to John Lithgow. Remember that we also have a video on this channel about the birth of the multi-billionaire Harry Potter franchise and its cast. Check the link in the description. The initial concept for Shrek was more in line with Chris Farley's style, an innocent, humble, and clumsy character. This matched his physicality, as Shrek was much larger and taller. The entire script had been written, leaning heavily towards comedy, and the animating process had already begun. The actors had recorded almost 90% of the film's dialogues. Then, tragedy struck. Chris Farley's death at the age of 33 shocked everyone. The comedy star had struggled with drug issues and suffered a fatal overdose, which posed a significant problem for the studio, as the film was still in production and Farley hadn't finished recording all his lines. The first option considered was to have Chris's younger brother, Kevin Farley, complete the remaining lines. But he declined because he was too affected by his brother's loss. Katzenberg requested a test screening of the entire film, reviewing everything animated up to that point, and he was not pleased with it at all. He felt it wasn't working and wasn't funny, realizing that significant changes needed to be made. Changes such as following Frolic for more fascinating movie stories like this. Thanks for supporting us. It was decided to replace Chris and look for another actor from the comedy scene. That's when another name emerged, one that was also making waves on Saturday Night Live, Mike Myers. Mike and Chris were great friends, so there are several theories about how Mike was approached for the project. Some say that the fact Chris had already recorded for the film was hidden from him, while others suggest he was asked to replace Chris as a sort of tribute to his friend, something he might not have accepted. The producer asked if this was something they could discuss over a few beers. This line made such an impact that it was later used in the film with him.
Hang on now. Can't we just settle this over a pint?
Ultimately, Mike agreed to join the project, but his voice didn't quite match the characteristics of the ogre. As a result, they decided to modify the script. The tender, good-natured ogre was a thing of the past. The new Shrek would be much more stubborn and occasionally menacing. His physical appearance was also changed. Consequently, Fiona had to be altered as well. Instead of being the sarcastic character initially created, she would now be sweet and romantic. This led to the decision to dismiss Janine Garofalo and replace her with Cameron Diaz. The story was shifted from being purely a comedy to having a more adventurous tone with a bit of adult humor, something director Andrew Adamson heavily advocated for. From the original script, only two iconic scenes remained: the campfire scene and the onion scene. However, another issue arose. Spielberg even called the actor to congratulate him on this change. But as mentioned, animation was going to be a crucial factor in the film. It was the fourth film in history to use this technology, and the studio set out to do work 10 times better than before. The challenge was immense because they had to animate textures, fabrics, and the viscosity of liquids, but the biggest difficulty was animating a human to look incredibly realistic. This was perfectly evident with Fiona, who looked very good, too good, in fact. The animators had to set a limit, because things looked so realistic that they didn't fit with the fantasy environment they were creating. They had developed 80% of the software used to create the animations, which meant they were also learning as they went along. And if any animator made a simple mistake, it would trigger a cascade of errors, but they managed to complete the animation of all scenes. In May 2001, the film had its grand premiere. The presentation of the film was a total success, garnering critical acclaim and box office success, earning more than $480 million. Mike Myers didn't like his initial recordings and requested to re-record his lines, but this time with a Scottish accent, as he felt it would suit the character much better. And so it was. But since the film was already animated, reanimating the character's lip sync would cost an additional $4 million. Nevertheless, it was a decision that everyone ended up loving. The audience loved its then revolutionary humor, which mixed references to the classic fairy tales that Disney had brought to the screen, with Katzenberg encouraging a more edgy take on them. Remember, he was still hurt by the mouse house. Even before the release, DreamWorks lawyers wanted to see the film because there was concern that Disney might sue due to the numerous references. All this success was cemented in 2002, when The Ogre won the first Oscar for Best Animated Feature, beating out Pixar's Monsters, Inc. and Jimmy Neutron, Boy Genius. With all these numbers, DreamWorks knew it was the beginning of a new universe. Naturally, a sequel was assured, but there were other pressing matters. Universal wanted to add an attraction based on the film to their park, no matter what. That's why they created a 4D projection, which was the first short in the Shrek universe. And while working on the sequel, they confirmed that 4 more films would be made. That meant the Shrek universe would include 5 films. With the resounding success of the first Shrek film, DreamWorks not only set a milestone in animation, but also opened the door to a vast universe full of possibilities. The film not only captured the hearts of millions of viewers worldwide, but also laid the foundation for a franchise that promised to continue surprising and entertaining audiences of all ages. The sequels continued that line, expanding and enriching the world of the swamp, introducing new characters, unexpected twists, and of course, the signature humor we all love. Don't miss what's coming, because the Shrek universe still has many surprises in store for us. Hey there! Thanks for watching. If you loved exploring the stories behind iconic movies with us, make sure to subscribe and click the bell icon so you never miss an update. We appreciate your support and can't wait to share more fascinating movie tales with you.